Okay, today I'd like to do the phase 2 representation, semantic representation for 2 Kings chapter 5 verse 4. So we worked on this yesterday. I added an implicit information that Naaman heard about the things that the girls said. Naaman went to Naaman's master, who was the king of Aram. Then Naaman told the king the things that the girl who was from Israel had said. I've said this a number of times, but just to repeat, I mean, if you didn't do it exactly like I did, that doesn't mean what you did is bad. And so there's more than one way to do things. And okay, so I'm going now to the analyzer, and let's click next verse and edit text, paste that in. Let's say a little prayer. Lord, help us to do this work today. I pray that I may enjoy it and that it may glorify you. Amen. Okay, so we have that there, and I'm going to click the Analyze button to get started. So you see the hourglass working. Okay, it finished. I'm going to click on Save Analysis. Aha, okay, so we have an error message. This verse changes the case frame for tell A. Do you want to update the case frame info now? Okay, so what that means is we probably have the wrong sense of tell, or there's some argument that's not right. Now, this is not a new word that we've had. It's unlikely that we want to change the case frame, so we should always say no at first and try to figure out what's going on. Okay, let's start. We can just look for that right now. So tell is in the last sentence. Then Naaman told the king the things. Okay, so Naaman, so tell. Okay, so see, this sense of tell is sense A, and that is to tell that something happened. So it has a patient preposition. That's not the form we're using. And this is a good example. So previously with the verses we've done, it might have looked like the analyzer always gets everything right. And now you're going to see that it totally messed up on this verse, on this sentence. So we're going to have to fix this up. But one thing we can do right away is just switch this sense. So we wanted to tell things. So I'm going to click on senses. I go to this tell here, click on that. Okay, you see there are 4 senses, and it's the last one we want. Tell D, tell something to someone. Mary told a story to John. Now, I can see already that the arguments are not right, but just to show, I'm going to click on Save Analysis. Oops, it worked. I still think that the arguments are not right here, but we'll figure that out when we come back to it. Let's go back up the beginning. Okay. So this verb in the first sentence is here. So it's hear about. And if I hover the mouse over here, it says to hear about something. John heard about the problem. So that's the right sense of hear. And if we look down at the argument structure under theta grid, so theta grid's just a technical linguistics term for argument structure. It says it has an obligatory agent, that's the acting noun, and an obligatory patient, which is the thing that gets acted on, an optional source. So in other words, you could say hear from, that would be the source, but the person who hears is the agent and the things that are heard are the patient. And we have those two arguments here. Naaman is the agent and things is the patient. Okay, now you see that thing here, it says thing object. Okay, that's not right because it should be things that are said. So I could click on the senses button to fix that, but I'm noting that later it has the correct sense of thing. Because this, if I hover over the thing later in that sentence, it says a generic term for speech. Okay, so this one is noun index 4. The first thing is noun index 2. They have a different noun index because they're different senses. They're different kind of thing. So what I can do is I can click on the fourth line in the thing list down at the bottom. And now I can click on this. Uh-oh. Okay, that didn't fix it. So now I made this, it left this one. What I should do is I'll click on this second one and click on the fourth line. Okay, I've got it back to what it was, that the second one has the noun index 4. So that didn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this word and I'm going to paste it up here in front of this other thing, the object thing. An object means something concrete like a book or a house. Now I'm going to click on delete words and I'm going to delete that first thing. Okay, so now these two things are the same thing, which is good because this is a restrictive clause which is modifying thing, and so thing should be the thing that's you're talking about. Now we don't need that object thing, so I'm going to click on thing list again. So down in the bottom right next to the thing list, there's in the right column of buttons the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th thing down. I'm going to click on thing list and it regenerates the thing list, and now there's no thing object there. That's icing on the cake. You don't need to do that. Okay, so heard about the things. Now this is routine, but the best thing to do would be to change that to frame inferable because it's the things that the girl said. So that tells you what kind of things. And I'm going to change in the restrictive clause. That's not really necessary, but usually we make them the same. Okay, so now we have Naaman heard about the things. This is a restrictive thing maker. It's telling which things that Naaman heard about. So it's restrictive. The things that the girl said, saying things, that's the say that we want. Said things, things. Okay, excellent. That first sentence should be correct now. We'll see when we click generate. Okay, the second one, let's fix up the, remember we put implicit info. So Naaman in parentheses implicit hyphen info. Let's check what type of implicit info that is. So I clicked on features, clicked on the clause boundary. Let me do that again so you see it. So for the first clause, there are these features here, and I click on that. Then I scroll to the right, and implicit information. Again, the default is implicit cultural, but really this is, again, is implicit situational information. We know from the situation that Naaman heard about these things. Otherwise, why would he be going to the king to tell him about it? And again, this implicit information is going to be most useful like for a children's Bible, just to make it more easy to understand. And for a more literal Bible, it could be left out. We have switches that we can set that will specify whether you use that implicit information or not. And you don't necessarily have to include the implicit information, but I think it's nice. Okay, so now this second sentence, at least in this case. Okay, the second sentence, let's look at the phase one up above. Naaman went to Naaman's master, who was the king of Aram. So on the clause boundary, we see it's an independent clause. That just is always going to be the case when you have the big wide double brackets. It's a main clause. It's declarative. It's saying something. Okay, Naaman, go. Go is this generic word saying to go somewhere. And then if I put on the second line, it says discourse. That's our normal storytelling time sense. Should be the same for here up above. Yep, here has discourse. So that means it's going to come out in English. Naaman went. Okay, then there's a destination. He went to the master. Okay, it's singular, frame, inferable. That's good. We know that it's his master, so it should be frame inferable. Then the noun phrase, generic genitive, is going to be the right one, just specifying that it's his master. It's a loose relationship. It's not. There are some other possibilities, but he's not an owner. Let's just check what other possibilities are. I'm going to click on replace word. Now I'm going to click on this generic genitive. So you see some of these relations at the beginning here. It's not a body part, not composed of, it's not a group, not kinship, he's not related like by marriage, it's not made of, it's not a name, not a nationality, he's not the owner. You might wonder about these realm of authority and region of authority, but it's really that is the king of the Israelites. That one might be appropriate here. I'm not sure how that's used. Realm of authority. Okay, let's go check. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the ontology and lexicon. Oh, first I'm going to save analysis. I'm going to go to the ontology and lexicon, ontology. Now I'm going to go down to relations because this is specifying a relationship. Now under realm of authority, I'm going to do a right click on that row. It's the 15th line. It says realm of authority. Right click, edit this. The second line, it says edit this complex co-location correction rule. I'm totally not interested in that. In fact, I don't even know what it does. But I am interested in the part in parentheses that says show all occurrences of the concept. So here, this is giving us a couple of examples. So if I right click on one of those, David was the king of the Philistines. I'm still not sure how this is used. So Genesis 26:1. Okay, we're getting into more of this than I thought, but okay, I'm going to go back to Proposition Analyzer, and I'm going to maneuver to Genesis 26, verse 1. So I'm going to click on Reference. I'm in the Bible here. Now I click on the drop-down menu, click Genesis. In the chapter, I'm going to put 26 and then verse 1. Okay. Okay, so here I see in the third line from the bottom of the semantic phase 2 representation, it shows you how this is used. Now, you might wonder, what am I doing? Why am I going into this? Because I wasn't sure whether the person who's the authority should be the main noun that's modified, or the people that are under authority. And it turns out that the people who are under authority should be the ones who are in the modifying noun phrase. So it's showing the people that he has authority over. So if I go back to, we still want Bible, but now I want to go to 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 4. So in this case, the master of Naaman. So Naaman is in the realm of authority of the master, so that might be correct. But I'm wondering if that's supposed to be, is that supposed to be all the people that has authority over, or it can be just one? I'm actually not sure. I'm going to make that realm of authority, but I'm not sure about that. It's something that may have to get fixed up later. Okay, so master of Naaman, since in the subsidiary noun phrase, it's the person that is under authority. Okay, and then this master, there's a restrictive clause. So it's not only the master of Naaman, but the master who is the king. Okay, so this is if I put the mouse over the feature for the subordinate clause, it says restrictive thing modifier. It's telling us okay, we already know it's Naaman's master. So this should be a descriptive clause. So we know it's his master. We know it's the king. So I'm going to click on feature, the button on the bottom right. I'm going to click on this and make it, instead of the third line, restrictive thing modifier, descriptive thing modifier. Okay, so in English it'll come out with a comma, who was the king of Aram. Okay, so this is B, social role. So yes, social role is the king. Present tense is okay because this is a subordinate clause. It kind of gets it's kind of the tense relative to the main clause, and that's kind of a difficult thing. I don't totally understand it myself, but it's kind of a relative time to the main clause. So master here, usually when we have a modifier that's described in this thing modifier, we have the same participant tracking, so I make that frame inferable. It doesn't really matter. That's kind of icing on the cake to change that. Don't really need to do that, but I do. Okay, so this is the same thing, and it's just modified, who is, and then this should be a state, because the be verb says it has an obligatory agent, an obligatory state. Usually the state variables come with the verbs to be or to have. Okay, and this is the king of Aram. That would be frame inferable, except we've already referred to the king, so I'll leave it as routine. Routine is what we refer to something that's already been mentioned. Then it has region of authority, Aram. Now, you see that the sense of Aram, if I put it over Aram, is wrong. It says the man in Genesis 11. The analyzer doesn't know which one to choose. It just uses the first one it comes up with. So we click on senses, and now I'm going to click on Aram. I can leave it the same as it is. He has the region of authority, but I'm going to change it to nation. But anyway, so I'm going to make it the nation. Because the sense of authority usually refers to the people. Okay, and then I'm going to change this region of authority. So I click on replace word, then I click on region of authority, click on the drop down, and go way down to realm of authority. Marks the people group that someone governs. Okay. And I suspect we're going to have a problem we had later because we don't have a word Ammonites, Aramites or something. But I think this is the best we can do for the semantic representation right now. Okay, then the last sentence, and that's a good lesson. Sometimes things don't work out like you want, but you have to do the semantic in English, but you want to make the semantic representation right. So the last sentence, and this is where I think we're going to have a lot of problems to fix up. So then we have the conjunction. So there's tell a story. So we already changed that sense of tell. Tell should have an obligatory agent and an obligatory patient, optional destination or instrument. It's going to have a destination because he's telling the king. The optional instrument like is with authority. Well, he's not telling with authority. But there will be a destination. So we have Naaman in the first noun phrase. It's most agent-like, so that's the agent, Naaman. Tell the king. Okay, so what you see is, you see this argument, the king. First of all, it's patient. That's wrong. Should be destination. And secondly, maybe it would have come out correctly if I'd written tell the things to the king. That's probably how I should have written it in the phase one. So because it's obvious that it assumed that the thing told was the king, the patient. So I probably should have written it the other way. Anyway, you can see that the king now, it thinks that all this other stuff goes with the king because there should be a right bracket closing off. So where did that right bracket go? So if you follow all of these, there's a subordinate clause, and there's this left bracket to the left of thing, and then there's a right bracket to the right of the subordinate clause. So the bracket joining to this left bracket around king must be even later, and it's at the end of the sentence down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on copy. So that's this little white button down at the bottom right that has the two things. That's kind of indicating something. It's the left of those two buttons that are like white boxes. So I click on the left one for copy. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do move words. Okay, so go over another column to the left and down to the fourth item, move words. Move is like copy, but it gets rid of it where you copied it. Okay, so now I'm going to click on one of these right brackets at the end of the sentence, the little brackets. Doesn't matter which one. See, it went away? Okay, and now when you paste, it always pastes before something. So I'm going to paste right on this left bracket for the next noun phrase that has thing object. Then it will go after king. So I'm going to click there, and did you see how that popped up? So now that I moved that right bracket to king. King is routine, that's fine, but we have to change the noun phrase type. That should be destination. So I go down to features. That's this second button in the right column underneath the white squares. I click on tell the noun phrase right after tell a story, the one with king, and I'm going to mark that as destination. In the second column, we go down to the fifth row, click on destination. Okay, and then the things that are told, that should be the patient. So tell has an obligatory patient. Those are the things that are told. So I still have features selected. So I'm going to go to the next noun phrase, the one that has thing object, which is wrong. We're going to correct that. But I'm going to go to the features at the left end of that noun phrase, click on that, and now I'm going to click on most patient-like, the second row. Okay, now again, this thing here, it says thing object. That's wrong. It should be say things. And this is really messed up because you can see that we have the things that are supposed to be said here, which is object. Then we have the verb later. Right. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. This is kind of a complicated structure. We have the girl who was from Israel said those things. So that's correct. The only thing wrong here, this structure is right. I'll explain it in a moment. But this word thing object is wrong. It should be thing said. So at the end of the verse, again, it got it right. And the reason it got it right is because it was next to this say things. So it knew that these should be things that are said because of that verb. But because this other thing was farther away, the analyzer got confused. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the copy button. That's the leftmost little white square at the bottom. I'm going to click on the last word in the semantic representation thing, which is generic thing said. And I'm going to click on thing object. And so when you paste something in, it pastes it before that thing. And then I'm going to delete that word thing object. Okay, so now we've got this noun phrase is thing said. And I'm going to make it frame inferable because it's going to explain. It's the things that the girl said. And the last one I'm going to make frame inferable. It's not really necessary, but okay. So now in this clause, the things tell to the king the things. Okay, so that ends the main clause of the main sentence because Naaman told to the king the things. And the end of the square bracket that says patient-like things. Oh, and let's check if that's plural. It is plural. Okay, that's good. Things. The end of this noun phrase is the last little square bracket before the period on the last line. So that ends that main clause. So now that this first subordinate clause boundary is telling us which things. The things that the girl said about. Okay, so that is, if I put my mouse over the left left part of that noun clause boundary, it says restrictive thing modifier. That's correct because he's telling which things Naaman told the king about. Okay, and then, so which things the girl and this is telling, then there's another subordinate clause modifying girl. Let's work outward and do that one first. So this is the girl who is from Israel. Okay, so this is the girl who was from Israel. within the context of this sentence, it hasn't uh, specified who the girl is. I'm going to leave this as a restrictive thing modifier. The girl that was from Israel. So I'm going to leave that. And then girl is the agent. Then we have be birthplace. Okay, and if you put it over be, it says to be from. So it's telling you where a person is from. And it has a state argument. It says obligatory agent, obligatory state. So there's the state, Israel, but it says the man. So that's wrong. So let's click on senses. That's the button underneath the white copy box. Click on Israel, the man, and I'm going to click on Israel, the country, because we're saying where from, but I'm going to go to the bottom line, the northern country, after the split, because this is after Israel has divided into two parts, Judah and the northern kingdom of Israel. I think Israel's been referred to before. I'm going to leave that as routine. So the girl from Israel. Okay, so this restrictive clause is okay. So now let's go to the outer one. This is talking about which things. So which things? The things that the girl, and that's the agent, and then the verb that goes with this is say things. Said, said things. Now the sense of things, if we hover over things, is to said things, say things. So that's the correct one. That's to say things. He said many things to the people is the example. And then that has an obligatory agent and an obligatory patient. So the patient is the things said. Okay, so that's correct. It has all the right arguments. When I did the phase one, I said that I put it in this past perfect sense. That is expressed as flashback in the clause. This is a complex thing. If you didn't understand that, you could just use simple past tense. But the things that had said, that comes across as a feature for the clause. So if I put the mouse over the clause boundary, the things that were said, and I look way, 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 way down, I see salient span flashback. And if I clicked features and clicked on the clause boundary, I could see that as a specific feature that can be set. Okay, so the analyzer got that right. So I'm going to click on Save Analysis. Now I'm going to click on Generate. Well, this was a short verse, but it turned out more complicated than I thought it was going to. Like I said, sometimes the analyzer does well. Here it messed some things up, and that might be partly because of the way I've expressed it. Maybe I should have said in that last sentence, then Naaman told the things that the girl who was from Israel had said to the king. Maybe it would have worked out right that way. So here we have Naaman heard about things that the girl said. So it doesn't have the things. We can fix that. It's not that important. He went to the master of him, who we'd probably want his master, who was the king of Aram. Then Naaman told things that the girl who was from Israel had said to the king. I'm kind of surprised it said told things there. That sounds like things is generic. Let's just check that. Then Naaman told things. Nope, it says frame inferable. So that's okay. Now, you don't have to do this. In fact, it's not really that important because we're not that worried about the analyzer language. That'll be fixed up. But I'm going to go to lexicon and grammar development. There are a couple of things here that we can fix. Oh, no, it doesn't show anything. Um, I'm going to, Naaman went to the master of king. Oh, yeah, okay. Naaman heard about things that the girl said. I think in English it would work out better than this. Um, Sometimes the analyzer language doesn't get right. The main thing, though, is that we have the features right in the semantic representations. Thing was frame inferable, so it means it's the particular things that the girl said. He went to the master of him. That's because we made it realm of authority, who was the king of Aram. Then Naaman told, again, we would say in English the things, but the most important thing is that we have the features right, that the girl who was from Israel had said to the king. So we would express a couple of these things a little bit differently in English, but the important thing is to get the features right in the semantic representations. Do you want me? Okay, so this next part is optional. You can stop listening right now, but I'm going to see what happens if I go to English. Okay, there's no obligation to keep listening to this video from this point on. Okay, I'm switching to English. It takes a while to load. Just curious to see how this would come out in English. I think it's not totally going to come out right because like we'd want it in English, but I think a couple of the things will come out better. Okay, so now I'm going to go to proposition analysis. Okay, I already came out to 2 Kings 5:3. Go to next verse. Now I'm going to click on generate in English. Just curious to see how it'll come out. English is very close to the analyzer language. Naaman went to the master of him, who was the king of, look at that, it says Aran, not Aram. That's wrong. It's got Aram here. Okay, then Naaman told things. It still doesn't have the things that the girl who was from Israel had said to the king. So, oh, so it's probably set on the audience is set now on churched adults. So this is an interesting thing. See, so it got rid of that implicit info sentence. Didn't even tell us what it, didn't even generate that. And that's because we're on the setting for adults that gets rid of those. So that was interesting for you to learn that. You can set the audience up at the upper left. There's an audiences button, and there's a where you can select a number up at the top left, current audience. Okay, it's kind of weird that it says Iran. If I go to the ontology and lexicon, Aran is another word. Aram marked to 131 should be Aram. Well, how about that? That's something that Todd will have to fix. Okay, so I think that's it for today. And that's the best we can do with this one. Okay, talk to you later. Goodbye.